well. What is the cause and what is the effect? The Holy Quran says the cause is that they will not believe. So this will happen. Some people change the order and say that is the cause and this is the effect. They will not believe because God has put a seal on their hearts and so on. You understand now? But if you read the Quran carefully, then you very clearly understand that first is the cause and second is the result of that cause. That is to say, if the effect of that cause. Now your second question. Yes, do you want to say something else?
Because I find it very difficult to actually distinguish between sin, that is someone actually committing a sin, and the will of God that is being. There's no.
See, that we will understand by listening to that cassette which I just mentioned. But there are some principal verses of the Holy Quran, like I mentioned in answer to the first question, which belong to the area of muhkamat, things which are very clear without any ambiguity. No verse of the Holy Quran should be understood in contradiction to what has been clearly laid down. They are the principal verses under the light of which everything else should be understood. Here the verse which I have in mind, which controls these things, which commands the entire area of human choice of sin or goodness, is فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. God has laid open the right and wrong and clearly differentiated between the two. Now it is for everyone, either to choose the path of righteousness or to choose the path of sin, whether to accept or to reject. So when this decision is left to the choice of man, then you cannot say that there is a destiny overimposed over this decision. If you understand that to happen, then the choice is given and withdrawn. There is no choice left. Follow that? Mm-hmm. So every verse of the Quran on the question of sin or righteousness should be understood in the light of this unchanging principle, domineering principle. Every man has the freedom to choose the right or the wrong. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Now this is the last question. The last question was that what we see today in the world of Islam is that the deterioration which is mentioned in the tradition, that during the period of general deterioration in the Muslims' conduct or beliefs, etc., Imam Mahdi would come or Messiah would appear. Yes, obviously this is it. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. First, will you please introduce yourself briefly?
Tahir Mahmood, Paxton.
Huh?
Paxton.
Mahmood?
Tahir Mahmood.
Right. And from which country?
From England.
Right.
I'd like to know if you feel that now that they've had the elections in Pakistan, whether things will at all improve for Ahmadis in Pakistan and therefore around the world. And is there anything you feel that Ahmadis could do, like writing either to our own governments or directly to the new government in Pakistan? And do you feel that if things will improve there and Ahmadi are recognised, that we can have then the right to perform Hajj?
Inshallah. As far as this election is concerned, if you were in presence in Jalsa Salana last year here in UK, the last Jalsa Salana, the annual conference in UK, and if you remember what I said in this connection during my last address, I recall that portion. I advised the politicians of Pakistan not to remain under the misguided view that mullahs do have an importance in the affairs of the country. I say it is you who, by your misunderstanding, have given them a lift beyond their level to which they could rise by themselves. So they have been artificially boosted by your wooing them. Stop doing it. Let them run the election by themselves. And then you will see where they stand. They cannot defeat you. The temperament of the country is not in favor of the mullah. That is what I said. And although up to now in all elections, mullahs somehow had contrived to mix with some political parties and cover up their weaknesses, because they emerged with the parties on different sides, political parties, established political parties, and shared the honor of their success. This time, with the grace of Allah, it so happened that no mullah had any political alliance with the established two political parties. And they have been so totally defeated and destroyed. Their claims of capturing the new government and forming the new government and bringing about a revolution in the name of Islam has proved to be absolutely false. And the Pakistani leaders are now clearly writing on this. So that shows that this was an exaggeration on the part of some people who thought mullahs had a role to play. The people of Pakistan have rejected mullahism in this election. So that is one step in the right direction, but only a beginning, a humble beginning. Still, they have a role to play to a degree, because both the political parties, the major political parties, are very close to each other. One has an edge over the other in the center, one has an edge over the other in some province, etc. But the number is so close that a stable political government cannot be envisaged. So what I fear is that if they do not unite together, both will run for the mullah's support, although the number doesn't exceed 10 in the National Assembly. But they will try to gain some number and for some support from them. And whenever they do it, the politicians do it, they always do it at the cost of Ahmadis. They bargain on Ahmadis, not against their own rights. So they put to stake the Ahmadiyya issue and Ahmadiyya's safety and Ahmadiyya human rights in the country, etc., etc., etc. And in sacrificing that, they can go to any limit, because none of them is scrupulous enough to decide these issues on fundamental principles of absolute justice. So there seems to be a change in the air, but to what degree it will change the plight of Ahmadis in the country is yet too early to say. Secondly, unless the ordinance that by the ordinance I mean the one which was promulgated by late dictator Zia, which has been incorporated in the 8th Amendment of Pakistan, as long as that ordinance is not abolished, there cannot be any possibility of rehabilitation of Ahmadis' right as equal citizens of Pakistan. So that still hangs like a sword of Damocles over the heads of all Ahmadis. So if the two major parties unite, and if some foreign powers give them a word of advice, now is the time to do away with all this nonsense, then of course we can breathe a sigh of relief after that. Thank you. Next, please. If there is no more question from the